Almost on time. I think I'm only 2 minutes late. It was good reason. I had good excuse for being late. I was busy dealing with security issues and following up with fun things. So welcome to Vlog Thursday 338 Firewalls, Securing Homelabs, Tech Talk, and Live Q&A. I actually have no questions that people emailed into vlogthursday@launchsystems.com. And I wanted to talk first about firewalls and something that I'm actually actively working on. I have not had a time to finish. I have like all these videos started, but not time to finish them because that happened. I have my pfsense PA 2.7 video, which will start with the notes I have on some of these things because I'll figure I'll talk about them here in the live stream. As always, it's the same thing I say all the time. Hey, I'm trying to make this more concise. And that is a challenge for me because put me on a live stream. Apparently, I ramble a lot per the comments that people give me. But that's why it's a live stream and generically marked like Q&A. This is not how I do my tutorials. So always, if people email me questions, I will get more concise. But the first thing I want to point out is the pfSense has been released and I've been running it and still today, no problems. So that video is uneventful, if you will. So let me share that screen real quick. I talked about it last week, but I have updated more systems to it. And the latest version in pfSense works great. No problems, nothing exploded, nothing melted down while I was doing this. So it just works, which is what you kind of want to hear. But one of the things that I realized there's a lot of confusion, and Netgate could clear this up really easily with this one simple trick. You know, isn't that what everybody says? That's how you get people to click on things. It's the differences in pfSense Plus versus pfSense CE in July of 2023. And hey, why not? Since the video is not released, this is the one I have to edit. I did record this, just not edit it yet. And well, I might have to change something if something's wrong, but I made a comparison chart. Let me throw that comparison chart down below. It's already public. It's on my forums already. And these green check boxes that I put towards the bottom represent everything that's the same. And I just kind of did some broad strokes about features of pfSense Plus versus pfSense CE. And these red boxes, these little red X's, represent the few things that are different in the two of them. And that's where there's a lot of confusion that people have around this. And it's figures it's a good starting point to get things going on this because there is just a high number of people that assume pfSense Plus costs money. And now it costs money to build software. So that's not the philosophical, does it cost money, but does it cost money for you to run it? Will it extract money? Does it require extracting money from you to register for it? And that's where it is free for home. It's free for the lab, which means it's free for the home lab. And no, it doesn't cost anything to run pfSense Plus. There's a lot of confusion around that, as I stated. So I've made this little simple comparison chart because, hey, why not run the Plus version of it? Because it has a few extra things like boot environments. And to me, that's a big plus for running pfSense Plus. You know, we'll go with that. But nonetheless, the pfSense Plus version, you know, some people are open source purists. But for those people, and this is where I don't know exactly where to go, I try to be concise in my tutorials, but hey, I can freeform it here, is I get it that I'm a big open source advocate and you leave it up to me. I'd like to say everything be open source, but I'm also not a project maintainer of a major firewall software. So this is not my decision to make. It's just my decision to suggest to the community and those that may be listening that we should just have everything open source. And I can just state those things from my comfy chair and doing a YouTube channel. But nonetheless, I know there are reasons that they have for building those couple extra locked down features, if you will, in pfSense Plus. But ultimately, one thing that you have to think about very concisely when it comes to any open source project is who maintains that project, who is the arbiter of what code goes in, what code doesn't, and who takes the time to build and compile the binaries, because you're not grabbing the source and building pfSense, you're getting a pre-compiled binary. And do you trust the people doing that binary? And in both cases, whether you're going with pfSense CE or pfSense Plus, you are saying, I'm okay with Netgate being the binary producer of it. That's something you just have to take into consideration with this or any other project of open source. So it's kind of those little fine lines, but it's more of planting that idea in people's heads so they understand and think about it concisely from that. Something I'm also going to try to do here, let me pull up my vlog Thursday notes, is I'm going to do timestamps when Tom, if he can remember, I'm going to look at how long I'm in and how long I talked about things. So we're going to put number one, we talked about at the O:00 mark, pfsense firewalls. When I change subjects or answer questions, I'll try to type the notes in there. I had some people do it, but it's hard to find if someone's really going to be dedicated to always wanting to make notes on my vlogs. I'm going to hire someone eventually for it. So reach out to me if you would like to be the note maintainer for Vlog Thursday. If you have the time to deal with Tom's schedule, or even if not, you can do it in post. You can watch this later at 2x so you can get through it in half the time and make some notes of things, and I'll add them to the descriptors so people have timestamps on there. So that's the version of Tom that's an AI job. Yeah, I know there's a couple tools out there, and maybe I got to look into. I know I've seen some of them, but I've seen some of them that just are messy. But I know there's some video summarizers, and if you know a good one, by the way, if you know a good video summarizer that would be able to do this, and you want to send it to vlogthursday@launchsystems.com, I would love to. I don't mind if I'm not looking for free. I don't mind a good paid service that will summarize videos. I'm all for it. In the future, pretty soon, DaVinci Resolve actually got some cool features coming up that are, and that's the software I use for video editing. That's going to allow me to do that. And I think that's a cool feature too. So that's on the to-do list for DaVinci Resolve, is to have, it's in their beta right now, for have good organization of like all the different timestamps. And so, yeah, someone willing to timestamps. Yes. Yeah. I'm going to up my game a little bit. Cause if you didn't, or it seems like a lot of people did, but if you didn't know, I just merged my company with CNWR. So that's going really well. We finalized, July 1st was the actual date, finalizing agreements, and then we're meshing together the companies. And me and Jason are going to do some business talk videos. By the way, there's already been one video released on the Business Technicalities channel that you can find linked down below, where you just go to that channel and we talk about the whole merger process. Well, it's at least one video on there now. In the future, there will be more videos talking about the merger process, because there's still more details and things we need to merge, and it's been kind of fun. Can you run pfSense on a Raspberry Pi 4? And the answer to that is no. That's not an option. There's not an ARM build publicly available. There are specialized ARM builds for Netgate devices, but it's not a generic ARM build that you can use on a Raspberry Pi. So the answer to that is no. Can you speak briefly on the features missing in CE? Well, if you scroll up just a little bit, you will find my forum post, and this is available on my forums under Firewalls, and this is where I'm pulling this from, is forums.launchsystems.com. And the features missing are going to be from CE, but you get in plus. So the check marks here represent something in plus, and the X's are not in CE. Boot environments, QAT crypto, OpenVPN data channel offload, which is in beta right now, OpenVPN client import, AWS VPN wizard, IPsec Apple profile, export, IPsec export Windows PowerShell, and that's it. Those are the only ones I'm aware of. If there's any I missed, let me know. I don't know why Netgate doesn't have a chart like this, but when a chart needs to exist, I make a chart. So I made the chart. And once again, here's some of the confusion. Dan, just to let you know, since when was pfSense free for Homelab? It always has been. There's never been a time it wasn't free. That's where I don't know where the misinformation come from. I did a video in February of 2022 where I talk about it being free. So I have a new video I'll be releasing tomorrow or tonight, depending on how motivated I am, that once again stating it's free. I'm making a more concise short video where, hey, it's free, guys, and here's a comparison chart, and just making it as simple as possible. And it's just one of those, things I want to make sure is very clear. What is your biggest pet peeve that Netgate refuses to address? That's a hard one. And I say that's a hard one because there's not anything that particularly bothers me every day about it. I don't look at it and go, "Oh, I so wish it had this." I mean, I want a dashboard, but I know that's on their "we want to address it" list. That's just not on their "we have addressed it yet" list. But that being said, there is at least one thing that I think is silly, and I'm going to log in to my pfSense 2.7 CE, and I think this is silly. Why? Tell me why. Reboot and halt. If I want to stop this or reboot this, why is it under a diagnostic option rather than system? There you go. I've now given you something that we can all agree on. That I think I don't know, and it's just a minor complaint. I think that if I want to reboot a system, I look under system, not under diagnostic. But someone could say you never really need to reboot firewalls. That's kind of a diagnostic procedure to reboot the firewall. And I wouldn't say you're wrong because we reboot things for diagnostic reasons. So yes, I can go with that. PF blocker versus quad 9, or can you use both? Um, I don't really use PF blocker as much anymore, but it's it kind of depends. You can use both, yes. You can set, so I believe you can use both, where you would have your forwarders set up on there, and it should work with PF blocker on there. I just don't use PF blocker as much because I run into I use it for sinkholing things. I don't use it for the ad blocking portion. So I should be very specific about what I am or am not using it for. But both are good services. Don't move it. I'm used to it. Oh yeah, don't move it because I'm used to it. There's a good reason to keep it. We all know where it is, and we are just so deep into it we would get lost. But you could always put it in both. It's new users who are confused. Old users are like, it's in diagnostics, and you're like, why? I don't know. I just know that it is. I feel like there's some forum posts that maybe explain it better. It's been years since I've complained about that. I mean, like a lot of years. But you were asking. The PF nonsense menu. We can go with that. But yeah, pretty I just don't have a lot of complaints, which I guess is a good thing, right? That we don't have a ton of complaints about this. That there's not like all kinds of things to rip on. It's some pretty basic stuff. But hey, at least we have something to complain about. Because what would we be if technicians didn't complain about things? It means, everything's just perfect and we can just keep developing software and going further and forward. So, one of the other topics I want to talk about here, and I'm going to move along because I don't know how long I'll keep the live stream going because, hey, I got a lot of stuff going on today. But let's see. We keep on the pet peeves because I'm going to keep the pfSense firewall talk going on this. I have some pet peeves with the DNS resolver forwarder pages. They work perfectly fine, but not fun adding internal DNS name refreshes to the window and sends to the top. Oh, you're talking about like if I went and added a DNS entry here, and if I add something. You don't want it to send to the top like that. Okay. So yeah, I guess it does send you to the top. I don't know. That part hasn't really, that seems pretty minor. Have you heard about Dynifi, the fork of OpenSense, and a Dynifi central manager that can manage pfSense? I don't know that I trust it. So Dynifi I'm aware of it. They just took OpenSense, and there was a forum post I had seen before in the OpenSense forums because I seen people discussing it. It was linked, I think, off of Reddit, and Dynifi just kind of took and copied the code and built it. But I don't know enough about Dynifi to say, do I trust them? This is the problem I have with any dashboard. Do you trust that dashboard to be a good project maintainer to give it access to your systems? I don't know one way or another if they're a good people to trust or not. All they did was fork some of the code and pull it up here because you're a cybersecurity company. Let me share this tab. Your cybersecurity becomes dynamic with Dynifi, open source firewall. centralized manager compatible with pfSense and OpenSense, wide range of customizable firewalls, the Dynifi firewall. I think it's weird that they just seem to. Did they even mention like what did they do besides fork it? Did they um pro support training, integration, resources, forums, documentation? Is there firewall? Well, I don't read French, and or does it have English? Okay, there we go. Awesome. So, how much different is it? I don't know, but what they do different in compared to OpenSense? How are they maintaining the code? How do they import the source tree from OpenSense in here? How are they maintaining security patches for it? These are questions I ask before I will choose to take the device that separates the outside world and my inside network from each other. I care a lot about that device. This is one of the things and why I've put a lot of trust in Netgate. Netgate has proved to have a good security track record to say this is the dividing line, and we are very careful what goes into these boxes, the pfSense firewalls, to keep things where they should be. Companies that have done a bad job about this. FortiGate. I've ranted recently about FortiGate, and they're constantly in the news. I have another thread over here in Slack with some friends that work in security where we're talking about how many FortiGate firewalls are being popped constantly. It is a constant circle of problems, and yes, this is why I'm careful before I choose that very important device that separates the inside and the outside. So just something to consider. I don't know much about the company. I would have to read up on it. I don't know how they do things differently. You and us, careers, brands, and copyright. They're a registered company. Do they have anything about how they do their security auditing? Like that's just a question. You know, what if we want to submit a bug? Do they have bug reporting? I'm not going to spend all day looking at this, but legal, our partners, what does legal say? Information, Dynifi, SaaS, on-prem, general terms and conditions. Not, no, if someone wants to email me because they know this information and save me the trouble, blogthursday@lawrencesystems.com. I wouldn't mind hearing if someone knows a lot about the product. Hey, it would be pretty cool to learn about it and have a better understanding of it. So if you are someone knowledgeable on this as a topic, then absolutely, I'm all ears. Until then, making notes to say where this is in the vlog. I'll see how long I can keep doing this. No security equals no WAN deployment. pfSense has got a long track record of being on top of security things over the years. So, yeah, that's the, it kind of, you have this long standing trust, that you've seen the team there address security issues. They've got a track record of doing it. This is something I really implicitly have people think about, especially as someone who deals with security incidents. I live in this real world of stuff gets attacked and I have to deal with the outcomes of it. So that's why I even threw out the other topic here, that's securing Homelabs, which we'll go to in a moment. I'm curious if you can run OpenSense on an ARM SBC. Not to my knowledge, and the reason why is because, to my knowledge, no one's taken the time to recompile it and build a. Well, you said single board computer, so as long as it's x86 based. So I usually go to like ARM based single board computers, but if it's not ARM based, probably yeah, you could run OpenSense on. I have one of those Zima boards and I'm working on my review for, and like the Zima board is an option. You can run OpenSense, should work on it. pfSense, I know works on it because I know people have tested it. So running pfSense on like a Zima board, that's an x86 Zima board. Yeah, that'll work. I just don't use OpenSense. And I don't plan to. You want hardware watchdog and cheaper Netgates. What is hardware watchdog that you're asking about? Someone wrote that before, and I don't understand what that means. So what is hardware watchdog? because I know what Watchdog is in pfSense, because there is a Watchdog package in pfSense that you can have Watchdog services. But what is hardware Watchdog? Maybe I'm missing some context somewhere. What is the new company icon? CNWR.com. There we go. So that's the company icon for CNWR. Launch Systems is separate from CNWR in the sense that this is where the YouTube channel lives. All the IT consulting is on the CNWR side. So if you hire us for consulting, you're hiring CNWR. And I say us because I am part of CNWR. I do consulting under that brand now. So that's a clarification for anyone that wants to. I don't know if I did the merger video explaining that. We'll do some business technicalities videos driving in more detail on that. Anything new with the Synology cameras? I'll get to that in a moment. If pfSense OpenSense did not exist, what would be your next choice? I don't know. I'm okay with Arista's Untangle. I don't think that's bad. I don't love a lot of the other firewalls I've dealt with. They're all stuff I just deal with. Like, it's not that we can't figure them out. It's not that we can't support them. I just don't have any passion for them. So it would be, if they didn't exist, I would just have to reinvent them and figure that out. To save someone else frustration time when migrating a new pfSense device, edit the saved XML to reflect the device's new NIC before importing it. Yeah, that can help too. My latest update to pfSense failed. Now unable to retrieve the UI. Any suggestion how to update it? I've tried suggestions in Netgate forum. None of them work so far. Grab your XML file and reload it. That's whenever it breaks. I don't spend a lot of time trying to fix it. I just grab the XML file. Make sure you have a copy of that file, the backup config, load fresh, load XML, and done. Okay, you did say ARM. Hardware Watchdog is just a device that generates NMI, non-mask will interrupt, hard reset if it doesn't get poked by software every second to detect a freeze and failure. Okay, is this something exclusive to Netgate? I mean, I'm familiar with that context, but I'm not understanding what the question is of you want something not from Netgate. Latest version of pfSense, also OpenSense, have a bug in Unbound package that doesn't work well with Quad 9 dot. That file a bug report. Shoreline Firewall is the best firewall. Linux runs able to be in a SUSE. I just upgraded CE to Plus. Seems to use more RAM. I haven't found that at all to be a problem. YouTube on TV refuses to load any of my video. Strange. Have you finished TrueNAS Zima board? Finished? No, still working on it. Is Snort your recommendation for the best IPS? Let's dive into that as a topic. There's a couple things I want to talk about when it comes to securing the Homelab. So let's jump over to that. I want to make a little timestamp note. So at the 23-minute mark, Tom, Homelab security. There. Now, this comes up quite a bit when it comes to the Homelab security and running things. This is where people on the Homelab going, Tom, I want easy file sharing. I just want to expose all the things. I'm like, you're doing the opposite of securing things. But let's start with some of the fundamentals and basics. Snort and Suricata, either one are good tools. So is, and we'll pull up Security Onion too. And we're just going to lay out by starting to lay out some of the tools. The problem is these are tools, not solutions. Now, running Snort or Suricata on your pfSense, awesome. Matter of fact, if you happen to use like a UniFi Dream Machine under the hood, although they pretty it up, they're using Suricata under the hood. Suricata and Snort can use the same and similar feeds to get the data in there. They're very advanced tools that are actually built into even many commercial firewalls, but they're tools that need a maintainer. When you buy a commercial license for a firewall, you buy insert name of your favorite commercial firewall brand by whichever company. They're often running those tools in the background, and they're constantly looking for the false positives. They're looking at what can it do. Firewalls can only do so much, though, because most of your traffic is encrypted. It's not as easy for them to really assess, is that an attack or is that just noise going through the firewall? Or can we even unravel any of that data? So while they are not a bad product to have, for example, if you're hosting Nextcloud and you've exposed your Nextcloud and it can detect that the attack coming in is trying to do something that would attack Nextcloud or a Nginx server, an Apache server, etc., maybe your IPS would recognize the pattern that they're sending and do something about it. But that's not always 100% the case. IPS can only do so much. It's better than nothing, but it's not how a ton of these attacks happen, that you can just stop them at the firewall by using an intrusion prevention system. Now, the intrusion prevention systems, though, can alert, such as outgoing connections that you can be flagged as suspicious. But once again, these are tools that require people to maintain it. Often what you first learn when you install a IPS system is there's a lot of alerts and people panic. First, they think they're under attack. Then they realize they're not. Then they realize what false positives are. And they realize tuning these tools is a regular challenge. It's not something that you just set it and forget it. When you buy a subscription to a commercial firewall, you're paying a third party in that subscription to do some of the tuning for you to get that working. So that's a pretty big aspect to think about when it comes to the running of these tools. So there's not really one that's just the best, but they're not bad to run. Now, talking about things like Security Onion, this is where you can really level up your security and do threat hunting. This is awesome because it's open source and free. Peel back the layers of your enterprise with our newest and most powerful release yet. I'm a huge fan of this project because it is probably the most best hands-on learning you will get to becoming a threat hunter and doing it on your own network. You can take all the data and integrate many different systems so they all feed into your Security Onion so you can get a good visibility into your network. Now, this works similar to the commercial tools that we use. Where it's dissimilar to the commercial tools that we use is it's a higher level of maintenance that you're going to need. It's not going to be as automated. It's not going to do things because it's passive, like host isolation. For example, the tools we use have the ability to not only see something, we have the ability to have those tools action and trigger to stop events from going any further based on the parameters we put in. This is what's more manageable from our side for what we do for our clients. But for you, the Homelab people, and that's where I know a big audience here is, this is awesome being able to go this deep into it. And if you ever get a job working in the IT industry as a security engineer, having this on your resume, having a deep understanding of how these things work, go a long way to really understanding the fundamentals of security. Is it best to use PF Blocker for securing your network? I would say it's better than not using PF Blocker, but you have to be careful because what people do is they start over blocking their network and they realize they've broke everything and things stop working. So while it's once again not a foolproof solution, but you can do things like, let's say you're not going to need to access Tor nodes, and we know Tor nodes are frequently used with some of the different attacks that are out there. You could go and use PF Blocker to sinkhole all the Tor nodes. Well, saves you that trouble, saves you the problem from having Tor nodes accessible. But maybe you want to get on Tor and now you can't because you blocked it. So it's good to use it. It's just not going to be a foolproof solution. Each thing, and Security Onion is talking about peeling back the layers of security to how exactly they word it here is peel back the layers of your enterprise with our newest and most powerful release. Security itself is also layers you lay on top. So you're going to have your IDS system triggering on certain things. You're going to have your PF Blocker blocking certain things. And on top of that, you're also going to want to have your layers in place. So if they get this far, this layer stopped them. They get a little further. Hopefully there's another layer that stopped them. And then they get to a login screen. And hopefully that last layer is two-factor authentication and a really complicated password, better than password 123. So each one's a different layer on there. Do you have videos on options for firewalls and VPNs? Yes. Other than pfSense firewall and WireGuard VPN, what would a few options you'd say off the cuff? I guess it kind of starts with use case. I've done videos. I've done recent videos about Tailscale and zero tier. I've talked about the overlay networks versus VPN. If you search my channel for things like overlay networks, you're going to say, oh, okay. There's a couple of videos Tom did on these where I break down the different types. I think I have one I titled like VPN killer or not VPN killer, because that's clicking. And there's people that conflate if an overlay network is a VPN killer, if you will. I don't really think so. I don't use Pi-hole. I do use uBlock Origin. I like it because it's browser based. So I'm inside this browser. I have uBlock set up. And if I want, I can tell uBlock to block or not block sites. Sometimes it's unfortunate, but I have to use tools, and that tool may be broken by having something like Pi-hole or PF Blocker. So I like having it in a browser. I click it. Okay, this site, I know you're tracking me, but that's fine. I need to get use of this tool to get something done. Are any of your customers big enough to big enough to benefit from DPU? I believe that was a name from Windows, basically a processor on the network card. I think we might have a couple that may benefit from it. We're not part of that. There's some very large enterprises that we do project work for. I have not been the one to set up something. I know that their network's big enough to need that. That's not part of the aspect of what we're setting up for the client. So I haven't used any of them commercially. Need to hire a team of armed guards around the world who bust into the hacker's den and suppress the threats as one of my security leaders. Tailscale, yes. What security measures would you put in place on a kids-only network? That's a tough one. I've talked about this before because you have the Cloudflare. Hold on. Is it called Cloudflare? It's the Cloudflare for families. And they have this as an option. So this is nice. It is, I think it's 111. There we go. The 111.3. So this is, if you type in Cloudflare for families, you'll find a whole write up on it and DNS for it. That's a really simple, low hanging thing you can do. Blocking stuff for kids is challenging. Supervising as a parent is going to be the more key and important way to do it. There's only so much you can do. You have to be engaged because it's usually not just some random adult website. The issues of where kids will wander is a more complicated one. Being an engaged parent is some of your best defense to get that. Have you looked into SixWind? Never heard of SixWind, so no. Thank you, Tom. Are you still using Zoros? We found a new content filtering tool. We're still using Zoros. I like Zoros. It works really well, which was confusing. Someone said, since I'm using Zoros, am I not using pfSense? That was a comment I got that I was just confused by on Reddit. I said, no, I'm using pfSense and we use Zoros to protect the endpoints. So hopefully that makes things clear. Yeah. Put the kid's computer next to yours and watch what they're doing. They're being an engaged parent. That's one of the answers I frequently give to people. Turning kids loose blindly, kids are going to be the curious children that they are, and you have to guide them. As your job as a parent sometimes is lending them the cognitive functions that you have and experience to try to keep them from doing something dumb. Sometimes that's just, wasn't there a game like that on Steam where you just had to keep the baby alive, and people playing it realized that can be challenging? As a parent with several children, it can be challenging. The kids want to do other things. You're like, no, don't. You know, especially when they're really little, you're just trying to keep things out of their mouth when they're really little, but that's off topic. You're like, don't eat that. Parent accountability. What are you talking about? We need to automate the parent out of parenting. Isn't that what IT is about? I haven't found any scripts to do that yet. There's probably a future with AI that parents for you. I don't know if that's a good or bad future. I didn't invent it. I don't use it. My kids are older and they're now, I got grandkids. So now it's another generation doing it. It's harder. I don't know. What is your IPS IDS that you deploy in production you easily manage? I'll be doing a video on this soon. Right now, Blumera is what we use for a lot of clients. There's another one that CNWR is using. I believe it's called Stellar Cyber. So I will be talking about Blumera. We're going to do a few interesting things, but we're using them as a product. I have a sponsored video that I'll be doing by them because they want to sponsor a demo on my channel. I'm also going to bring on, I know the security engineers at Blumera, and they're awesome. And one of them, they did a great talk, and I want to bring that talk they did. It's not a product talk. It's a talk about security engineering and logging and how to see things. So I want to bring one of their security engineers to do a talk on my channel. So that's coming in the future. But short answer is Blumera, Blumira. I can pull their website up to make it clear. But yeah, this is the company. Can I make their logo bigger? Yeah, Blumira. The people there are great. Have you set up a client and all IPv6 internally? Those are pros and cons. The answer is no, and I don't use IPv6. I don't really have a use case for IPv6. Not everything is IPv6 compatible. It isn't worth the headache. Sounds like the military. I keep trying to kill pilot, finish the job. Let's see. Yeah, the talk's interesting. It's about how to get better logging. It's going to be interesting because we're going to be diving into a lot of Windows stuff. And this is where there's kind of a split. But there's going to be more content around this. I'm going to bring some other people in, maybe people from CNWR, definitely Jason from CNWR, to talk a little bit more about Windows security things. This is not my field of expertise. I am more of a Linux and engineering and whatnot guy. And I'm not someone who is the foremost expert on setting things up in Windows security, but that's where there's Jason Slagle. He is much more of an expert on that as a topic. So yeah, that's something we're going to be covering. And it's something with Blumera. We do monitor and ingest like pfsense logs and things like that can go into this system, but the bigger and broader thing that we have to watch, we maintain thousands of Windows computers, and those Windows computers are where the logs really have to end up. We need to know what is the actions, what are the data points, and someone here, I'll even pull this up real quick. Linux is way more secure. Yes. Linux is definitely easier to secure. Microsoft is full of holes, and Microsoft picks and chooses which holes they patch and when they patch them. But the reality is, I can't just say I'm going to tell all my clients to run Linux. That's not a practical or reasonable thing. The line of business software they have here in 2023 frequently runs on Windows. Therefore, they run Windows. And because the career path I have chose of managing all these systems has babysitting Windows computers, that's definitely a big aspect of it. Have you worked with Kaylee Sakinabaka architecture? I have not. It'd be interesting to see how it compares if I have, and I will have time in the future, how that compares to like Security Onion. I really like Security Onion, but Kali Linux is definitely awesome as well. uBlock Origin, Ghost Free, Privacy Badger, Malwarebytes Browser Guard, good combo for browsers. I've only used uBlock Origin. I haven't tested the others, but hey, go ahead, and I'm fine personally with just using the uBlock Origin, but there's definitely more things out there. I'm always careful about what I load as my browser plugins, because browser plugins have such deep access to things. This is also where I try to exercise principles of least privilege and giving the least amount of privileges to anything, which also includes browser plugins that could read what's going into my screen, which may be interesting information. This is where Grammarly, there was some back and forth a while ago, and duly noted, one of the reasons I don't like running Grammarly in my browser is they do exclude the password box when you're typing, but that as long as the place you're typing it excludes that password box. When you think about a plugin such as Grammarly, and I know that's not on the list here, but just think about how plugins work. They interact with what is in your browser window and think about that. Can that company send data back? Well, yes, but are they? Not necessarily, but you have to take that into consideration if it is a less popular product. For example, Malwarebytes is a reputable company, so I don't think they're doing it. I've never heard of Ghostery. I have heard of Privacy Badger, so I believe they're probably reputable, but these are just things to take into consideration. And uBlock, I've trusted them for a while. Let's see. Besides Graylog, have you used other systems? I've used them. I didn't like them. That's why I choose Graylog. So have I looked at them? Yes. I found them more complex than Graylog. I found them more confusing than Graylog to work with. So there's a reason I chose Graylog. It turned out to be the one that worked. End of service Windows 10. Microsoft has a list for each version and when they expire. Linux is only more secure if the users know the software. Yeah. Would you be willing to do a video on your thoughts on TNSR with their new UI? I didn't know they had a new UI. So there's a UI for TNSR. Let me look that. So enable the GUI service. This is for the certificates. I haven't looked at it all, so I didn't know they even had a UI for it. I just haven't really had a reason. I see GUI with certificate, but is there actually a GUI in here? Because I thought it was all done command line. And based on this, it looks like it is. So, yeah, I don't see a UI for it. I'm on their site. So if TNSR has a UI, email me Vlog Thursday to the UI stuff. I haven't used it. I'm not aware of it. I don't see it in the documentation. Their tool to disable extensions for that's neat. I like that they're going forward. I think Firefox is still a good browser and they're still innovating on things, which I think is awesome. A video on how Tom sets up his browser. You'd be bored. There's a lack of plugins in my browser. I got Bitwarden and uBlock Origin. There we go. You've now seen all my browser plugins. There's how Tom sets up his browser. Moving on to monitoring tools. What time is it? It is 42 minutes in. So if we start at the 42:30. Do I recommend something other than NetData that's FOSS? No. In NetData is open source. Their cloud is not. I don't think they're useless without their cloud. You can use NetData perfectly fine without the cloud interface. I will pull something up real quick here. Let's look at one of my servers. Why not? Because that's what we should do. Whoops, that is not the server I wanted. There we go. Log in and we'll pull this up. And we'll show you NetData without the cloud. Got to get to the application. Is there an update for it? Yeah, we'll just run a very, very slightly dated version. There we go. To me, this is useful. I can see the processes. I can see all the things on there. If you wanted to take this data and pipe it somewhere to create alerts or anything like that, you could. I don't think about doing that. I'm generally doing that in my logging system. This is just so I can see all the data. NetData is a great project. It's open source. So I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for or what you think is missing out of there. Now, the cloud will consolidate all the different nodes into one place. That's a definitely convenient feature. So you don't have to like bookmark all your IP addresses. You can create one dashboard with technically a little HTML and a couple iframes. You could probably pull them all into one interface yourself if you wanted to. How does the latest Proxmox compare to latest XCPNG? You know, I don't think that there's even Jay from Learn Linux TV talked about this, and I didn't really notice anything that was so different per J, um, that would make me go, "Oh my gosh, I need Proxmox now." I still feel that XCP-NG is a more innovative and more forward-thinking project, so I don't know what they've added that would make me go, "Wow, this is the killer feature." So, to my knowledge, there's not anything I know of, and if someone knows otherwise, my forums or email vlogthursday@lawrencesystems.com to let me know what you think would be the killer feature that they have. Right now, I'm not aware of any new killer feature that they had. I think they got dark mode. I think someone mentioned that, but I'm not a big Proxmox user. Linux is more secure by default and generally requires users to open up remote access and permissions and escalation rather than doing those things by default like Mac OS and Windows. Yeah, a little bit. You can. There's a lot of ways to slice it. They're just very different operating systems, so you're not doing an easy one-to-one comparison of security on there. But I generally think Linux is probably going to fall on the more secure side. But it all depends on what is the metric you're trying to measure on that. I was looking into cubes, but NixOS also looks interesting. Chrome messing with the AdBlock Plus list right now. I heard they are doing something. Oh, Neck8 made a video doing it. Okay. I didn't even know they released a video on it. Interesting. I'll have to look at that. So now I have some to-do lists. I'll watch it after I'm done doing this. I guess we could watch it together. Do we want to have a watch party? See if we pull up Netgate. So
with a K from Netgate. This brief video introduces
UI
the
here.
new Tensor graphical mental, but we're working to
Okay.
improve the user interface and experience. This video highlights the options that can be configured.
It looks kind of cool.
Today. Instruction cases,
Firewall. Sure, it
VPN,
looks really basic.
status, and help. To the right of the menu options is a new. The system under configured. There are.
So let's see. Okay.
For IP lists. The service
Interesting.
offers API configuration, along with service control to control services, local and forward zones configuration.
Okay, this is just a slide they're doing. I see.
And feedback. These links open in the browser window. It's important to note that every annual Tensor.
Yeah, this is okay. It's early release days of this, so there's not a lot to talk about them. Is my assumption here. Fair enough. So, what do I think of it? When it comes available, I will be interested in it. You should get Dark Reader extension for dark mode. Yeah. I mean, usually you want to see one screen of everything, then going to rather than go. Then, as I said, some HTML and some iframes that fix that. You don't have to go out to a cloud to do that. You can do that internally. You just like they don't have a self-hosted controller that you can centralize all the data to. That's not something I think they're going to be designing. I saw the newest XCPG supports TPM with the next release is going to fully support it. Yeah, that's TPM support's coming. I like saying Proxmox better than XCP-NG. So that's what I like about Proxmox better than XCP-NG. I like saying Proxmox. I think it's a fun word to say. Are you going to jump to Debian for your desktop? No, I'm staying with Pop! OS. They do a great job of it, and I just don't care enough to distro hop. Pop! OS works wonderfully. I actually like where they're going. They're re-engineering some of the desktop things, and I think they do a good job. The polish Pop! OS puts on the system makes me happy, so I'm going to go ahead and stay with it. Oh, you guys hear the audio? That's funny because I didn't. Oh, I got my volume turned down probably. I do. So you guys heard the audio at 2x. I just realized that. Funny. At the end of the day, we talk about the sauce of the day and then watch party. I think another reason Linux is generally more secure is because people using Linux are generally more in tune with managing their OS. So, yeah, you don't have the average end user using or even thinking about what their operating system is. That's just not part of their average day. People come to work, they just go, this is a tool, this thing in front of me, this keyboard, mouse, and screen, and some magic going on under the desk or behind the desk or wherever is not really their concern, not something you're thinking about. They are making widgets. They are typing about widgets that are made. This is how the end user thinks about things, which is fine. It's not what they're interested in. I have several friends who are really smart engineers, and that's where it ends for them. Like one of my friends is a metallurgy engineer. He really dives deep into the metallurgy that builds pistons and things like that in the automotive space. But he's not a tech guy, a computer guy. He's a person with a good degree in understanding metallurgy, and this is just some tool he uses. You know, if you ask him if it runs Windows, he doesn't care. What do you think of Check MK? Well, I don't think of it because I didn't know what it was, or maybe I do and I didn't know. Check MK. Never heard of it. So before you did this, maybe they had an ad sponsor, but nothing about this software. It looks popular. It's got big names on it. Customers: Adobe, Bosch, Continental, Airbus, Swisscom, Vodafone. So it's a popular enterprise IT software based on those names. Raw Edition, free and open source IT monitoring for mid-size infrastructures, audit, discover your box, monitor out of the box. So looks interesting. I've not used it. Moving the laptop to Demon 12 displaying drivers, my dock kicked my butt last night and I gave up. That's one of the problems is if it doesn't have support for all the things I need to work, I can't use it. My feelings may be, hey, Debian's cool, and I would like to use it, but if it doesn't support all of my devices, I'm going to have a hard time using it. It comes down to it has to be used. Pop! OS works great. I don't have problems with Pop! OS. I don't have to think about my OS. My fingerprint reader works on my Dell laptop with Pop! OS. Favorite flavor of Pocky? Bought some banana Pocky. I would say banana is probably up there. Banana, strawberry, both are good. Upgrading my 4x1 gigabit NIC to 2.5 gig NIC, 10 gig router. My internet's slow, so even a 1 gig port is kind of wasted. It's okay. The motherboard 1 gig port WAN, higher speed NIC. Wait, is it okay to use the motherboard 1 gig NIC for WAN and the higher speed NIC just for my LAN? Yeah, absolutely. If you're not going to have a WAN that's going to exceed 1 gig, you don't need to use that as the WAN. The pfSense boxes, for example, and the pfSense, or if you're using, some other box that you have, it's all reassignable in pfSense. So you may as well, if you're not going to use faster than 1 gig speeds on your WAN side, point them internally. Take advantage of the speed internally. David says he uses Check MK and it's amazing. Is it Check Mark? Is it Check MK? I'm not sure how they pronounce it, but David says it's amazing. I haven't used it myself. ESXi. Yes, we have clients that run it. I don't love it, but it exists. It's popular in the market. It's not my preferred hypervisor. It's not the one I would choose. If you see popular logos, you know it's expensive. Not necessarily. In pfSense and HA, where can I see CART master slave status in the UI? I don't have one I can log into to show you, but it's in their documentation. You would go into, I can tell you about where it is. I believe it would be under, it's either under the firewall or the interface statuses. One of those places, go under firewall and you can see the different IPs assigned to CARP in there, or go statuses in there. But it's in the pfSense documentation. I don't know which one would be better, Sericot or Zeek. I've not used Zeek enough to give you a comprehensive answer on that. Like Tom C, do a roundup comparison between Debian, Pop! OS, and SUSE, Leap, Tumbleweed, Town Choice, and Arch on a spare laptop. See which is best, if any, worth switching. I spend most of my time in the browser and using the same tools. So if the same tools got loaded that I use, then it wouldn't make any difference what the underlying OS is. That's why I don't really bother with the distro hopping. There's not enough about it. I mean, the UI is going to be slightly different, but if the UI crashes more on one of them, that would be interesting. There is a bug that sometimes when I have all the windows open, I think it just runs out of video memory because I have so many things open that it sometimes causes the screen to disappear when you do the expanded switching, but it's not really a bother. I just Alt Tab. Alt Tab always works, and I'm mostly using Alt Tab to do things. So I bought a Synology 1522 and almost bought the 10 gig port. I stuck with the 1 gig and was surprised how fast it is between my System 76 and a Pop! OS system. Yeah. More like Zabbix. So check MX. This is the question was, so is check MK is like net data or Zabbix. And David, who says he likes the product, says it's a lot more like Zabbix. They have a free version of it. So it says open source, and that's pretty cool. Download now. Choose platform. They support, they support Debian. They don't have 12 on here. Debian 10, 11. You want the raw? You want a free child? Nope. So cool. Networks, applications, database, storage. What exactly they do? Here's the features of it. Automate monitoring. Add new components with less effort. Automatic detection of configurations. Features such as host lifecycle. Use modern rules. Automate from 0 to monitoring in 10 minutes. I like that. I like getting up and running fast. Scale monitoring performance. Modern day concepts for cloud and on-prem. So, okay. Get detailed installation. Now, this is interesting. NetFlow monitoring. But go back to where were we at? This is something that may or may not. Let's go over here. Auto discover, monitor out of the box, open source, auto detect issues, and more. There's probably some missing features in here. So that's where it comes down to, is figuring out what those missing features are compared. There we go. Server, network monitoring, application monitoring, log and event monitoring, container monitoring. Cumbersome. Interesting. Okay, so they have quite a bit in here. What about, it says NetFlow. Is NetFlow data going to be offered? Nope. It says network monitoring, but it doesn't really say, like they say NetFlow data in here, but is NetFlow data actually included with the free version? I don't know. ES6i is what I get for free. You just go to play with on my Dell EMC. They still offer the home licenses of, I think they do, for VMware, as far as I know. SNMP or agent-based monitoring. ESXi itself is free except for there's different rules and restrictions. You get like a free base version, and yes. Any more thoughts on Unreal Server? I haven't had time to think about it. I'm so behind on getting YouTube videos done. Do you know what's fun? A bunch of people saying a bunch of things and one person replying to it all. The raw is more than good at us. VMUG, that's the word I was looking for. The VMware sells VMUG licenses for like $400 a year. Yes, they do. Not 200. VMUG is now 400. Yeah. That is a thing now. Inflation, price increases, trying to make a bunch more money. We have the internet. Let's close the 100 tabs Tom has open and Google VMUG price. Join the VMUG Advantage. No, I just want to know price. We'll get the answer out of Google, so we don't have to do it. The VMUG subscription is $200 a year for an individual subscription. So it sounds like, is that from their FAQ? Yes. VMware users group, $200 a year. So make that bigger. Maybe they charge people from the land down under more money. There's a chance of that. There may be more in Australia. All right. Well, I think we've wound this down towards the end. Is there any other final questions before I wander off? And I probably got to get a pizza for my son. I know he probably wants to be fed. What are you currently using for network monitoring? Which kind of network monitoring? Our tooling we have does some of the network monitoring. Our UniFi does network monitoring. And at CNWR, they also have Auvik for network monitoring. So there's several different ways. It all depends on the different, which network and what level of monitoring and what the contract agreement is. This is actually the fun facts about the merger is we have a lot of different contracts and agreements and all the different things we do for different companies. So have pizza, Tom. We'll see you next week. Really need to sign up for forums. I got nothing interesting to post here right now. Well, fair enough. The forums, that's where a good place to be is. We be same with Ninja with CNWR. Yes, I don't see us moving away from that. There's not really a reason to. We like it. It works. It works for our co-managed clients. So yes. No, I have not played with Harvester. I liked I liked Fing for network monitoring and such. Much better one first. Yes. What are you using for cloud backups these days? Veeam is one of those things. So CNWR uses Veeam for some clients, C2 for certain situations, like that works well. And we still have some MSP 360 because it's reliable and it's steady. So that works too. Ninja One is great. Yeah. No, I'm really happy with, like, we're not unhappy with Ninja One. So, as a matter of fact, Ninja One integrates into some of the other tooling at CNWR. So that's, it's not like it's this oddball thing hanging out here. It will integrate and tie into the monitoring, tracking, ticketing, etc. that they have at CNWR. So it's not like we left them out there. Matter of fact, most all the tooling we use is MSP friendly and will be integrated into CNWR. I'll leave comments if you guys want to learn more about what we're doing on integrations. Maybe me and Jason will kind of go over our tech stack once we get everything kind of put it on there. Have you tried Magnus Box? I haven't had a reason to because they're just using Comet backup with some custom code around it. I don't know. I mean, my question with any backup is how is the security handled? How are they doing their security auditing? Do you understand how their encryption is being done and the tooling around it? And then you can move forward. I don't have many answers. I know because I've seen they sponsor things in the MSP space for Magnus Box. I don't know anything about, I know they're using Comet or some customized version of it, but I don't know all the other details about it. We looked at Comet backups and there was the way you use some of the keys in there. We found we didn't like the way Comet backup worked. So we decided not to go with it. That's why we don't use it. I don't know how they've implemented it in Magnus Box. I just know what they're using in the back end. I set up Veeam last weekend as agent only apps, having problems with taking multiple backups a day. Yeah, config calls for one. Yeah, I don't know. Something's not set up right. That's yes, the Ninja team is actually awesome to do it. When are you going to release the ZMboard TrueNAS so I can copy and don't have time to figure it out myself? There's really nothing you have to do to copy it. Just you could just buy one. They work. So it comes down to will it work for your use case? What is the most exotic or fastest network? I don't know how to describe that. There's just some big ones. There's some large networks. There's data center networks that are being managed. I don't really know. I would describe them as exotic. I'm not using dome mounts. No. I don't know if it's someone here. Maybe we currently use Cove Backup, formerly SolarWinds, and it handles bandwidth situations insanely well. Comparison to all the others. So try curious what caused you guys to switch. We were just moving away from all things SolarWinds, and that's why we got rid of them. So the big challenge just came down to the way their billing system was kind of a mess at the time, and I just wanted to be off of SolarWinds. So that's why we got away from it. It worked though. I got to admit, it worked well. It's funny because after we separated, they spun it off as a separate product, which I think is a good idea because it was a good product and can stand on its own as a good product. It still had some it's not bad overall, but it had some quirkiness that we had to deal with once in a while with it. But overall, it's not a bad system. The problem with Comet, and I don't remember. I'd have to get Eric to join me sometime to talk about this and see if we still have notes. But a year ago, one of our problems was the way they handled the API keys, where you had to share them on each system. There was a way you could. It was the way the API keys were handled. We were worried they could be extracted off one system to target another system, and we kind of pointed that out to them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that we should probably not do it that way." And maybe it's been fixed, but it was something in the way that the API key was handled, and we're like, that shouldn't be this way. One of the things you have to think of for backups is you don't want a compromise of an individual system to cause an upstream problem for other people's system when it goes to each of the buckets. So when you're managing backups at scale, you have to really take those things into consideration. Yes, it was SolarWinds, then it was Enable, and now the backups are separate, and it's that. So yes. My son has no interest in tech, so no, he's not being trained. I offer it to him all the time. It's not been what he's doing. I think you can hide it now, but more importantly, they now support Wasabi immutability. Well, that's cool. We decoupled from N Central, similar reasons. Been integrating with Ninja. I'm not wild about SolarWinds either. Always interested in alternatives. Yeah. Yep. Comment same way a silent install requires user ID and password command line. Yeah, but is that user ID password unique to each client? Like you can build a unique one? I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a while, and the product has undoubtedly changed as we looked at it. Like it was like 2 years ago now that we looked at it. So, but it's not on a roadmap to look at it again. So if you like it and you don't have any concerns about it, I know it's a popular product. So, but with that, I'm going to leave you guys. Thank you all for joining. Hit me up in the forums. Email me, vlog Thursday at lawrencesystems.com if you'd like to have me read some emails or have questions I can answer. And I will see you all next time. Thanks.